CIG releases their financials from the UK at the end of the year. Well, they filed them at the end of the year after that year. So we should have gotten 2023's financials back in like January, February. These are really late. Don't know why. But here they are. They've been released. Oh, he's in here? Wait. Hey, drinkers. You got a minute to hop on and talk about it? I was looking for somebody who maybe had a little bit more to say.
Hey, mate, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. How have you been?
Yeah, good, thank you. Sorry, I'm freaking out a little. I've just had to mute you on your stream because I've had you twice. But
yeah. It'd be like that. Just now getting the financials is kind of an interesting bit, if you don't mind getting right into that. I was wondering why you think they took this long.
Sure. Well, I mean, so a quick disclaimer. I've done a little bit around small businesses, and I have a friend who's taken me through multiple reports. So that's the background for me. I'm not a financial expert myself.
Okay.
And because of the format they've put it in, I'm going to have to jump around a bit and find like the bits that I remember seeing. I might not be able to put my finger on them initially.
I'm going to share my screen to you so you can see what I'm looking at, so it's a little easier maybe.
Sure.
And also you did a little summary of this on your own channel, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Someone shared it to me a couple of days ago, so I basically spent all Saturday night into Sunday morning getting it, thinking everyone's going to be on this. This is going to go out, like, you know, it's going to be all over it, and hopefully I'll be among the first. And then there was just kind of, until seeing you mentioning it, it's been crickets, which has been really weird.
Yeah, it's been a little bit quiet, I guess maybe because they hit their 80 million funding or 800 million funding things, so that's getting more attention. I don't know. But appreciate you covering it, because as somebody who doesn't know really what it says, any bit of experience I think helps people at least be able to get something out of it. I don't think we have to understand the inner workings of CIG or anything.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, so in terms of the legal requirements by filing, they've kind of just changed here in the UK. But what we can do is you can actually go and have a look at the historic filing dates. It's done through an organisation here called Companies House in the UK. Mm-hmm. So I'm just going to find that for you and link it just in case you want to have a look, because I think the dates are pretty similar. Okay. I don't think this one's kind of out of the ordinary, but give me two.
I'm going to throw it in the side chat in the room we're in.
Yeah, no worries at all. So yeah, so there's all the stuff about, kind of when they've made their different changes of directors and stuff. That's this is where it's come from.
Oh my gosh! For a second, I thought this said Director Ezra Klein on here for a second. It's gonna be like, wait a second, what?
So it doesn't look like I've got the ability to put it in side chat, so I've just fired it at you in a message. But yeah, unfortunately the page is from the UK government, so it's not the easiest thing in the world to read. But like, it's got loads of stuff on there, and then basically what we're looking at is the repeat posts of group of companies' accounts. Mm-hmm. So it's like 4th of April 2025, then 11th of March 2024, 10th of Jan 2023. So it seems to be getting a little bit later, but
yeah. Soon we're going to be getting it 2 years later.
On the other page of this, yeah, it still lists it as overdue.
That's interesting. Actually,
so apparently
Sorry. No, go ahead.
Yeah, so it says on their actual file page, and I can fire that at you as well. It says accounts overdue. Next accounts made up to 31st of December were due at 31st of December 2024 from 2023. So it looks like they're kind of consistently late, but I guess they're not really, being chased for it. So
wait a second, hold on. CIG late?
I know, right? It's such a new experience for us.
All right. Well, let's jump into the report. Sure. The biggest thing I think everybody probably wants to know is, like, how much money did they make? So I don't remember what page that's on, but we could just go straight there at least first.
So yeah, it's kind of the first page of graphs. So I think it's their page 13,
13, yeah.
which is ominous. So the bottom line here is they are listed as an $8.4 million loss. Oh, sorry, £1 million loss.
hmm
But that's not the whole story, obviously.
Versus the year before making an £8.5 million gain.
Absolutely that. Yeah. So basically, there's a couple of pages of this. So that's the profit and loss for the entire group, not just the UK arm of the business. The next two pages are basically kind of the statement of the group, and then of Cloud Imperium UK. So people kind of going through, and so on page 15, the company statement, there's a sentence, the top sentence under all the financial gump says the company's loss was 20 million. But obviously they were focusing on Squadron 42, so that's been offset by the rest of the group.
Mm-hmm.
So it like there's a lot to dig through here. But yeah, so that's basically it. It's when what they've said is that the revenue has actually gone up 47.9 mil this year versus 44.5 last year.
47.9.
So,
yeah. Okay.
yeah.
And
So
I see. Sorry.
Go on.
I see on the page 14 a couple lines here. Current assets list stocks, debtors, and cash at bank in hand. Do you know about that?
Yeah. So it basically what this is saying is that the stocks so much, I think that's effectively stocks that they hold elsewhere. Cash at bank is the money that they've carried forward from last year, or that they have remaining from everything that they bought this year. So
Yeah.
that in some bank account somewhere, that's what they've got. The debtors is the outstanding. There's a note there, note 18, and it actually kind of gives you, I think, a little bit more information as to who owes them what.
Where are the notes?
Yeah, so it scroll down. So from their pages, it's page 38.
38.
Yeah, this is crazy. What I suppose it's worth mentioning as you find this, the first few pages are from CIG themselves. Those are the pages that Erin and that have signed. So it's their kind of declaration.
Mm-hmm.
Everything after that is actually done by a company here in the UK called PricewaterhouseCoopers. So it's independently audited.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
It provides a little bit more kind of reassurance that what's going on is right, not, it's not just bluster. But the key thing here, I think, is corporation tax recoverable. That's the majority of the money that they've got coming in the next year.
Corporation tax recoverable. Okay.
Yeah. The UK and France are two countries in the world at the moment that are offering tax breaks for video game development, as long as the company that's claiming it, the majority of the company is based in the UK or doing its work within the EU, basically.
Right. So does it's probably kind of expected then to think that this whole move everybody to Manchester, get everybody under one umbrella is also, I mean, obviously it's financially beneficial to have everyone in the same place, but it's going to let them get more tax breaks, which is what they already were there for.
Yes. Yeah, exactly that. And that's going to last until 2027. So the UK have announced that ends in 2027. I'm not sure if France is doing the same thing, but that's that.
Now, is it possible that with the... So we saw that they made more money the year before. I think we had seen... Or that their profit was higher year before. Is it possible that they were just trying to kind of game the system a little bit since they acquired Turbulent to just have a loss to get more of the tax breaks that you're talking about?
Sure. So yeah, so they basically get a discount, or if they post a loss, there's another system that they can apply for, which is like a credit. That I'm not entirely sure how that works, but it is listed and it's on the gov.uk website if people want to dig into that. Basically, what they've done here, the bottom line is, there's with the new Manchester Goods Yard HQ, there's a requirement in the lease that when they hand it back to the landlord, they hand it back as it was given to them. So what they've done is they've gone, okay, let's spitball how much we think that costs. And then they've applied it to the profit and loss sheet. because they've recognised that as a cost. So no money has changed hands. It doesn't mean the end of the lease is imminent. They've just gone, okay, when we pass the property back, we're going to have to take out, the only constant and all that sort of stuff and hand it back to them so it can be used by the next people who aren't complete nerds like us.
So they're basically tracking how much work they're going to have to do when they move out and keeping that on their docket.
Yeah. And they're absolutely, and this basically is on page 47. In fact, no, tell a lie. I've looked at the wrong bit. I'll find it for you.
That's
in just
a great idea. You don't want to get caught off guard by that.
Exactly that. It's, to kind of use an analogy, it would be us, in a rental property thinking, okay, well, when I leave here, I'm going to have to sort that stain on the carpet, and then I need to fix that thing that I broke, and then, I'm going to need to get the pet hair cleaned out. So, however much money I say I'm going to have when it comes to moving house, I know I'm going to have to pay that. They've done that now. It's note number 20, which is on page 39.
Number 20.
Yeah, and just paraphrasing, it basically says the group has recognised the provision under its property lease agreement for the UK head office located in Manchester, requiring the property to be restored to its originally categorised standard upon lease termination. They've basically said, well, that's £10 million. So they've just gone, we'll recognise that. So they've not paid any of that. That money hasn't gone anywhere. It's a massive, the rest of that is just saying, hey, they've taken a guess. They've kind of adjusted that figure for inflation and interest and all this sort of stuff. It's a guess. But
still,
why. Sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say that's a good idea to have that there. I mean, it's going to help you avoid any sort of accusations that you're trying to hide losses or something like that in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that sort of thing that, because obviously corporate finances work different to our personal finances, they have to recognize that they are now contractually obliged to pay out in order to return that property to the way they got it. That had to go somewhere, and that you'll actually see that is on that first sheet on page 13. It's under administration costs. It's just a little bit over the figure that they quoted, because they obviously have other admin costs as well. But it is, that's where it goes. So that page, whatever it was, 13, you'll see the admin's costs have gone up massively to over 10 million. That's where they put that cost.
Okay. So this is new. They didn't have it before? Factored in?
So I think they've just kind of recognised it now. So they've moved in, and they've obviously, it's in their contract.
Well, so then that if they didn't have that in, it would have been a profitable year.
Exactly that. Yeah, about just over 1.6 mil profit.
Which is, I think, what they were doing in profit back in 2017-ish area time, 2018. Yeah,
exactly that. And then you take out, I think it said that the purchase of the remaining 75% of Turbulent was 4.5 million, was the consideration that they paid for it. So, yeah, it makes for very glum reading, and this is why I want to kind of get out of I wanted to get out ahead of the, oh my God, this is the heat death of the universe sort of take on it,
Why do you think it reads very glum?
I think it's just that. I think, people will look at that first figure and go, they've gone from 8.5 million ahead to 8.4 million behind. And like you say, it took me quite a while to sit and read and understand this.
Yeah.
Most of us are not financially minded.
Yeah, that's easy to miss this. We don't even know what an administrative expenses is. Where does it say, so cash on hand here? Debtors, cash on hand. So that doesn't seem right? That says 18.9 million in debt, but they do have cash on hand. Where do I find that?
Next page down is page 14. Cash at bank and in hand, that's owing to them.
Okay. So in total they have 40 million.
So that's and then you kind of take away Sorry, I'm kind of frantically putting this all back together in my head.
No problem.
Yeah.
No problem.
So yeah, so that's their assets, and then they remove kind of the figure under the liability. So that's again that provision for liabilities there, which is like it has the note 20 next to it.
Okay,
That's the liability that we've just been talking about. Yeah.
These get added up together, make 11.8 million, subtracted from what they have in total, gives them net assets of 33.2. So their net assets from 22 to 23 dropped 7 million. But in total, they still have 33 million in equity in reserves, including their debtors, which is probably like if they completely stopped making any money at all, is just like a few months, 6 months, maybe.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which, to be quite honest, I don't know how much a freaking normal company has on hand to run without any sort of revenue coming in.
That I think that strikes me as crash rich when you look at the kind of total turnover to have a significant portion, maybe even a quarter of that on hand, ready to go. That strikes me as quite a good situation to be in.
Let's see what good old reliable Google AI has to say about it. As a general rule of thumb, companies should aim to keep enough cash on hand to cover 3 to 6 months of operating expenses to ensure they meet obligations, even during periods of low cash inflow or unexpected events. I wonder if unexpected events could possibly include the freaking fall of a stock market.
Well, yes, quite.
But yeah, 3 to 6 months, at least according to Google Gemini, is considered healthy. But they also, I mean, they've been expanding a lot. Do you think they're going to continue with the expansions that they've done, or do you think that's kind of what we're seeing here in terms of costs, and now we've even seen a little bit of downsizing at some points?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question, because one of the things they recognize when CIG, on the first few pages, they say, we recognize that we're coming off the back of the pandemic and the lockdown, and that has been a very bumper period of growth because obviously people weren't doing much else. And they say there that they're recognizing now that the market's in for a tough few years as of 2023. So they seem to be quite aware of the fact that things were not going to potentially be all roses. So whether they've then decided to continue growing, I'm frantically looking through as we're talking. There is a bit where it says it's got a comparison of wages and pensions and everything year on year, and it's gone up significantly.
Yeah,
very significantly.
I wonder how much the more senior level departures have been helping with, is freeing up money for wages for other lower level developers.
Yeah. I no idea. I think what's interesting there is that the wages and salaries went up massively. The pension costs actually dropped.
Where is that on?
So that's their page 31, note 7. You're basically looking at the kind of just under the middle bottom.
Aggregate remuneration comprised wages and salaries. Yep. Oh yeah, 26.6 up to 49.
Not far off double.
Yeah. Wowzers. Gotta pay the people. People gotta eat. Oh yeah, and then okay, cool. So they have the group numbers here too. So we know that the company's much bigger than this, so they kept expanding. Because they hit 1,100. Didn't they say something like, wait, hold on. It's in here. Between LA, Austin, Frankfurt, and Manchester, CIG now has over 1,100 employees. And that was in July 2023. So where's the disconnect there? Is this not including a group? You see what I'm referring to?
So I do. That's interesting. Why is that?
Turbulent had 189 employees. So even if Turbulent wasn't included in this number, oh, actually, no, that gets them up to 1,100. So maybe they just didn't include Turbulent here.
Yeah, possibly. I think the confusing bit there for me is it says the oh, there we go. That's why it's the average monthly number of persons employed.
Ah, right.
So-
Sorry, guys, I'm a gamer. I don't read. Don't ask me for proof of things.
I feel like I've used my quota of reading for the year on this one document, and that's it.
Yeah, dude. This is a hefty one. I mean, look at how easy it is to miss anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really take away too much from this that the like of how the company is doing, but they're clearly to put it in very simple terms, they're doing company things. And
Yes.
obviously none of us in this chat think this is a scam because they're like continuing to try. Well, maybe somebody does. Maybe you're just watching this. But I think this does show that they are trying to make what they're doing work. It shows that they're under pressure and they're not just kind of willy-nilly. But I think the biggest thing is like Squadron 42 needs to come out.
Yes. And I think that there is, I don't think it's a coincidence that it's absolutely happening in, or, as far as we know, absolutely happening in 2026. And the UK tax breaks finish the year after. To me, that reads very much like they're trying to switch from, the income of the tax breaks to income of Squadron 42.
Yeah. And don't they have some investment stuff going on this year and next? Is that what you're referring to?
So yeah, I think just in terms of getting the income from Squadron 42. So I think like you say, this indicates to me very strongly that there's nothing to worry about. Firstly, the fact that in 2023, the year before they take decision to close the LA studio, they're talking about things are going to get tough, and the financial market is, we know that the games market may well take a bit of a downturn. So that's kind of planned that. And also the fact they haven't gone back to selling Squadron 42 yet, despite the fact they've got that incredible kind of hour-long gameplay thing. I think we're in a good place.
Yeah. I think there was also some word on the original Calder investment that they it insinuated that they were expecting a timeline that tracked to around 25. And I think everybody is going to probably admit and say that they can't solely rely on selling ships forever. They need to have a game out there that's speaking for itself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it'll for us as the gamers, it'll show us what happens when CIG are actually focusing on a project. Because in their own words, they've been focusing on Squadron 42 as a Star Citizen, and I think that will really either give us a big confidence boost or make us very worried as to what's going to happen to Star Citizen.
Yeah, oh my god. That game can't be like mid even. It's got to be a good game at this point. Like a 85 plus kind of Metacritic scoring game. Good
Absolutely.
luck, CIG.
And I think it's kind of an interesting look at Chris and how he works, because he's made this big thing. This is the games he wants to make. He can finally do what he wants to make. He must be terrified of actually releasing it. He must be really worried about, God, what if I release this and it doesn't get a good reception? There's a lot to worry about. But from what I've seen, I'm happy.
There was some talk. I saw people saying that there was a little bit more of an investment from the Calders in the support. Did you have a look at that or talk about that?
Yeah, so there is a note in here that from CIG that the beginning of this year they took a $10 million loan from a stakeholder. And again, I think that's business stuff because they can write off the interest payments as a business cost and all that sort of stuff. And, unless 2024 shows up to them to suddenly have no working capital, I think that's accountant games rather than, oh my god, we're going to go under imminently.
Just moving numbers to make things cost less.
Yeah. And this time last year there was that big hoo-ha about, oh my god, the stakeholders can draw out, they can sell their shares back to the company.
Yeah.
And is this a deadline and everything else? That's actually been renegotiated in here, it looks like, because they've now pushed everything a year right. But it still has. So I think, let me have a look. So that's note 31, which is on page 47, the very last page.
Okay.
So you'll note now, I think that it says that they can basically withdraw a year later.
Shares were excisable January 24th and March 24th. Shares put their first rights are excisable within 30 days of the financial statements being delivered of the year ending the 2025, and within 30 years of the financial statements being delivered for the year ending 2028.
Yes. So given the fact that we're getting 2023s in 2025, 2025 is not going to be to 2027, but it still has that line, the second to last paragraph of note 31. It says another reason they're not listing it is because it's only payable out of cash in excess of what's required to effectively operate the business. So they've still got that line that says they can't draw it out and shut everything down. CIG can still say, no, we need that money to keep running the business effectively. So it's not anywhere near as scary as it first sounds.
That's a big statement, I think, for the investors to be willing to put in there. That's very friendly.
Yes. There's two parties to that. Both sides will have had to have agreed to that renegotiation.
Yeah.
So the shareholders are obviously not feeling any burning need to pull that money out. Otherwise, they would have gone, no, I want my buyback option now.
In your mind, is this them basically? This is their delay to the investors. This was them being like, well, the game was going to come out by 2024. It's not. This is our delay. Can we pay you back at this time? And them basically saying, yeah, that's cool. Looks good.
Yeah, I'm reading between the lines here. This would have been discussed well before anything was signed. And it would have been the investors saying, hey, look, we get it. We're on board with the vision. Our concern is that this doesn't happen. The funding drops off or whatever. What guarantee do we have? What entices us as an investment? What's our backstop? And CIG say, okay, well, we'll give you the option to buy back 6%. So, because they're not publicly traded, that gives the investors at some point the option to buy out and give all that control back to CIG.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, I don't think it's so much a stay of execution. I think it's both sides kind of agreeing that they're going to keep giving them that option because there's no, requirement. The stockholders aren't panicking. They're not suddenly needing to, the stockholders, to get their money out and get it out now, sort of thing.
The commentary is always that the backers, the players, the people who did the crowdfunding are the ones constantly being like, yeah, take more time and being like taken. But it's kind of funny to see the actual money. I'm not to say that the investors have more of a pull than anybody else or anything like that. Just the fact that they have such a large stake, yet they're still going to be like, well, let's take more time. I don't think that's all good news, but
yeah, absolutely. And I think it speaks well to, one of the things that really got me when I first found this. So I discovered the project in 2013 because I remember going into work and making everyone watch that Kickstarter video with the Bengal and just going, look at how cool this is. And, that kind of everyone else just going, what is this? It's like, no, watch it. You'll love it. But one of the things that really caught me was when Chris said that he wanted to do this without a publisher. Right. So he wasn't being held to deadlines and everything else. And it's nice to see that obviously he's been very careful about who's buying stock, because they too seem to be very helpful to happy to go, we're not going to hold this over your head. It's fine. Keep going, sort of thing.
That's fair. As was mentioned in chat, I mean, they knew each other already, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it works if you know somebody who kind of knows how you work, but also maybe is willing to still work with you if you've had some struggles in the past. But hopefully it works out for everybody, including us.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially
Um,
us.
I am seeing in chat, so obviously this was covered, that you mentioned this earlier, that this was covered last year, and there was terms that said that the investors could pull out their shares, and if they
Mhm.
sell their shares, they'll bankrupt the company. I think you actually, yeah, Hustle, he had already gone over this, right? That's what this agreement is for. They can't do that. They are not allowed to pull out their shares if it would damage the company to the point where it can't operate, right?
Exactly that. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's what it says. Is that just to paraphrase it as I read it, um, if this it's called put terms. If the put terms are exercised, i.e., if the stake holders sell their shares back to CIG at a 6% premium, this would only be payable out of available cash in excess of what it is required to effectively operate the business. So they get to say, "Hey, this isn't I need this cash to keep working on Squadron 42 and stuff." Citizen, you can't have it. You can have out of the pot of what's left, and then
Yeah.
that keeps going until the cash becomes available. That's what that says there.
Yeah.
um
And we
yeah.
know other people have covered this before. What they didn't cover was this. This is a new agreement. This has been renegotiated in this agreement. So what you guys read last year is no longer true regarding how the investors can or will pull their money out of the project.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, so that's that. Is that it's categorically they cannot pull that out until it's said, because it's not publicly traded, so they don't have the same ability to get rid of their shares as they would if it were traded normally.
Cool, man. Well, any other interesting bits here or thoughts or things you thought people might want to know about?
Uh, no, I think the bit that I guess people might find interesting is there is a section that shows kind of the breakdown of the turnover, and exactly between subscriptions, merch, and sales where that's come from. And I'm frantically trying to find it as we talk. I think it's one of the first notes. I think. Yeah, so it's note number 3 on page 29. There's the early access, which they say accounts for all of the game packages and ships, and the armor and everything else. There's subscription and merchandise. So subscriptions now back at the level it was in about 2019, 2020.
You said note 23?
Sorry, note 3 on
Oh,
page 29. Sorry.
subscription.
Yeah. Just while you have a look at that, just to respond to Hustle. Sorry, I'm responding to your chat for you, but
Oh, go ahead.
um, but note 31, the second to last paragraph, Hustle, is the second to last paragraph actually highlights that and says that they can't withdraw that without agreement. So, and they can't do so to damage the company. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's that.
If that's why I just sent that link as the source. It's right here on the screen right now. If you guys
Yeah.
want to read it. Another reason is due to the nature of the put terms, as if exercised, the put proceeds would be payable out of available cash in excess of that required to effectively operate the business, and thus the liability would remain undischarged until such available cash becomes available.
Yeah. Because I see what Hustle's saying about it would make absolutely zero sense for a private investor to agree to that. I think that shows the level of trust and agreement between the stockholders and Chris and CIG. That they believe in the project enough that they're willing to agree to a term to that, like that. So yeah.
So yeah, subscriptions. And you were saying they had dropped and were up to another level again? Can you?
Yeah, so they've dropped about 250,000, about a quarter of a mil from last year.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And that the last time I think they were at that level was 2019, 2020, one of those financial reports.
Man, they do
I was
not
really
make
sad.
much.
No. I was really sad and went and opened all the financial reports listed on that company's house thing. So
Sounds like the marketing campaign has begun. I don't I don't know. I think they might begin at the end of this year.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I hope so. I think it's probably going to be about a 6-month warning. I mean, I imagine it'll have updates on it. But Chris said a little while ago, he said, "Oh, normal games you get about 6 months warning," and I wonder if that's kind of like what he's got in his head for how much he's going to give it for the release date. So we'll see.
Yeah. All right, dude. Thank you so much for coming to join and talk about this. I don't know what the heck I'm looking at, and I definitely wouldn't have caught all this stuff that you had mentioned. Everybody, go check out his own summary of it. I'm sure it will have this in a much more condensed version. But also, like, give him some views. We appreciate the hopping on here to give some knowledge. Thank you for that, man.
Thank you, Space. Thanks for having me. It's been great, and I shall continue to lurk and watch along. But thank you
Of
very
course,
much.
my dude. I'll catch you around.